Hello and welcome back to Ignite Your Fire Within. We're going to be moving into a flow today. So we're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to find a lot of movement, a lot of different postures as we find the connection we have between postures. So today I am going to invite everyone into their child's pose to begin. We'll draw the big toe together, the knees towards the outer edge of the mat, the sit bones reach to the heels. We find ourselves hinging at the hips, folding forward, working that length through the spine. We can extend through our fingertips to invite that stretch into our shoulders. And then we just relax the neck, the head begins to fall freely for the earth. And we'll find ourselves relaxing here in our child's pose, drawing the awareness of our mind to that natural, rhythmic flowing breath. Just simply allowing that breath to be exactly as it is. And as we observe how that breath moves through our body, each inhale, that gentle expansion, and each exhale, that ability to release. As we find the comfort, that steadiness and smoothness of this natural breath, we want to maintain that steadiness and smoothness as we move through our practice. And gently, we'll begin to draw the shoulders up and over the wrists. We'll step the knees and under the hips to our tabletop posture with a nice neutral spine. And gently we'll begin to reach through the chest forward and up. The shoulders roll back and down the spine into our cow posture. And we begin to release the tailbone towards the backs of the knees. We utilize the core strength, lifting through the mid and upper back as the shoulder blades gently widen into our cat. As we find ourselves lifting into our cow, that reach of the chest, the roll of our shoulders back and down, working the strength of the mid and upper back. And then we release into that cat posture, the tailbone towards the backs of the knees, that hug of the low belly, strengthening through the core, lifting through the mid and upper back. And we find our lift into our cow, utilizing that inhalation. And an exhale as we release into our cat posture. And we find that reach back through the chest, filling the expanse of our lungs. And here on this exhale, releasing to our tabletop with a nice neutral spine. And we'll gently extend through our right fingertips forward in front of us. Our left foot will begin to reach towards the wall behind us, finding our extended tabletop. Now we want to keep the shoulders and the hips nice and parallel to the earth. And we might choose to remain here, working that strength through our body, or we can choose to find some movement as we begin to release the elbow in towards the belly button, the knee up in towards the chest, lifting through the mid and upper back, finding our cat variation. And we'll begin to extend from fingertip to heel, working that length through the spine into that extended tabletop. And we'll draw the elbow and the knee back into the chest, the lift through the mid and upper back as the shoulder blades widen, finding that length through the spine as we reach from fingertip to heel. And the elbow and the knee work their way back into the chest, the lift through the mid and upper back as we extend out of that foundation. And then as we extend from fingertip to heel, working the length through our spine, and gently our next exhale releases the palm and the knee to the earth as we find our way back to our tabletop. And we'll gently extend through the left fingertip, reaching through our right heel, working that length through the spine. Finding that extended tabletop, again we can choose to remain here, or we can find our movement through that flow. As we gently begin to release the elbow into the belly button, the knee up into the chest, that lift through the mid and upper back. That extension from fingertip to heel, working that length through our spine. And then the elbow and the knee draw back into the chest, the lift through the mid and upper back, strengthening through the core. And that reach from fingertip to heel, working our way back to our extended tabletop. Drawing the elbow and the knee to the chest, the lift through the mid and upper back as we extend out of our foundations. And then reaching from fingertip to heel. We'll gently release the palm and the knee to the earth, finding our way back into our tabletop posture. And we'll gently step the hands forward about half of a hand's distance. We'll begin to send the hips back as we roll over the feet, lifting the hips then up towards the sky, finding our way into our downward dog. And as we find this down dog, that firm foundation through all 10 of the knuckles of the palm, especially the knuckle of the thumb and the index finger. Then we'll work the length through the arms, the shoulder blades gently widen across the back. We'll draw a strength across the base of our ribs as we hug the low belly in, working that length into our spine. We begin to allow the feet to relax. Let the heels gently fall in towards the earth, finding that stretch moves up the calves. And there might be a gentle micro bend through the knees as we encourage that length to remain in our spine, simultaneously seeing if we can draw a stretch into our hamstrings. And then gently we'll find that the knees will bend further, the gaze will draw forward, we'll step, hop, or walk the feet all the way up in between the hands. Finding our lift to our half forward fold, lengthening through the spine, we want to reach the chest towards the wall in front of us. That strength across the base of the ribs, the hug of our low belly. And then gently we'll begin to work the length through the legs, inviting that stretch into our hamstrings. And we'll release back into our forward fold, letting the knees gently bend as we draw the stomach to thigh connection, working that natural hinge through the hips. We'll let the shoulders relax. Maybe we can find a chest to knee connection. Maybe we draw opposite hand to opposite elbow, adding a little bit of extra mass for gravity to draw upon. We might even gently sway to the left and to the right, working that ergonomic movement through our spine. As we find ourselves evening out that ragdolling motion back to our midline, we'll gently release the hands to the earth. We'll find ourselves lifting to that half forward fold, lengthening through the spine and legs. And gently releasing back to our forward fold, the hands draw to the tailbone, interlacing the fingers, the hands begin to extend up towards the sky. Maybe those hands will gently begin to fall over the head, working that stretch into our shoulder girdle as well. Continuing to find that stomach to thigh connection, that natural hinge through the hips. That lengthening that exists through the spine as that stretch is drawn into our shoulders. Gently, we'll begin to release the hands back to our tailbone, unlacing the fingers. The hands fall freely for the earth. We'll gently begin to roll up one vertebrae at a time, stacking each vertebrae one atop the other. And gently, as the shoulders remain relaxed, they'll naturally slide back and down the spine, working that length through the neck. We'll begin to extend through the top of the head, finding our Tadasana posture as the arms relax alongside the body. And we'll find our way gently into our chair, bending the knees, drawing that weight into our heels. Finding that strength through our quadriceps. The hips have a natural hinge to them. We let them kind of float with this posture as we encourage the tailbone to reach gently towards the earth by hugging the low belly in. Lifting out of that pelvic floor, we'll gently draw the floating ribs together as the shoulders relax, extending through the fingertips towards the sky. From this chair, we'll gently find ourselves releasing into our forward fold. We'll find our lift from this forward fold to our half forward fold. And gently we'll begin to release the hands to the earth. We'll step the feet back into our plank posture. And we'll pause here just to find a lengthening through the spine, the reach from the top of the head all the way through the heels. And then we'll invite that body weight to shift forward. We begin to bend the elbows, hugging the elbows into the ribs as we begin to release to our Chaturanga Dandasana. And we want to see if we can find that 90-degree bend at the elbows. Maybe we find that we're just released into the earth. Maybe we're working somewhere in between. And we'll begin to reach through the chest, forward and up, rolling the shoulders back and down. We'll lift either into our cobra, or perhaps we can really work that strength into our foundations and extend up into our upward dog. And we'll utilize our core strength from here, reaching the hips back and up to our downward dog. Inviting an inhale to lengthen through the spine. We'll gently bend the knees, drawing the gaze forward, stepping, hopping, or walking, the feet between the hands. We lift to our half forward fold, lengthening through the spine and legs. And gently we release to our forward fold, working that stomach to thigh connection. And we'll find ourselves rising into our chair, the weight in the heels, the strength through our quadriceps, the hug of the low belly as we lengthen through the spine. And gently we'll extend through the legs, we'll release the hands to the heart center, finding our way back to a gentle standing Samastitihi. And then we'll find ourselves gently sitting back into our chair, the weight in the heels, the strength through the quadriceps, hugging the low belly in as we maintain the length through our spine. We release to our forward fold, that stomach to thigh connection. Lifting to our half forward fold, lengthening through the spine and legs. Gently releasing to our forward fold, the hands will ground, the feet step back to our plank. We'll continue through to our Chaturanga Dandasana as we shift that body weight forward, the elbows bend and hug against the ribs. Reaching through the chest forward and up, the shoulders gently roll back and down as we lift into our cobra or our up dog. And we send the hips back and up to our downward dog with the strength of our core. Building out of that foundation, we want to lengthen on that next inhalation. And then beginning to bend the knees, the gaze will draw forward. We'll step, hop, or walk the feet between the hands. Lifting to our half forward fold, we work that length through spine and legs. Releasing to our forward fold, our stomach to thigh connection. And we rise into our chair, the weight in the heels, the strength through our quadriceps. Extending through the legs, we'll gently begin to release the hands to our heart center. Finding that sit back into our chair, and our gentle release to our forward fold. We lift to our half forward fold. The hands release to the earth, the feet to our plank, moving through a vinyasa as we find our Chaturanga Dandasana. Beginning to reach through the chest forward and up, our up dog or cobra, and we'll extend the hips back and up to our down dog. And here on our inhale, we're going to extend our right foot back and up into our three-legged dog. Now we want to notice that our hips remain parallel to the earth. We continue to work the length from all 10 of the knuckles of the palms through the arms, extending through the spine as we reach through that right heel. And then we'll draw the right knee into the chest. The shoulders will draw up and over our wrists. As we begin to relax that right knee, that right foot falls down to the earth, and we're going to ground through it. We'll release our back left foot all the way down to the ground as well, noticing how our right knee is gently either just above or just behind that right ankle. The hips remain nice and square to the front of the mat. We want to squeeze those feet into the earth as we draw that chest forward and up, lengthening through the spine as we stand to our warrior one. And gently we fold forward, framing our right foot. We'll extend our right foot back to meet the left, choosing to move through a vinyasa or straight to your down dog. And we'll find our next inhale begins to extend that left foot back and up to our three-legged dog. Again, the hips nice and parallel to the earth, working that strength through that foundation as we lengthen, extending through that left heel towards the corner of the ceiling and the wall. And we'll begin to draw that left knee into the chest, the shoulders up and over the wrist, working that gentle strength here as we release that left foot to the ground. The right foot gently releases as well as the hips remain square. We'll find our lift to that warrior one, being cautious that we have that left knee continuing to be bent either directly above that left ankle or just behind it. The hips nice and square to the front of the room. And then gently we'll fold forward, framing our left foot. We step it back to meet the right, choosing to move through a vinyasa or straight to your down dog. And as we find our way into this downward dog, that firm foundation through all 10 of the knuckles, the lengthening through the arms, that extension through the spine as we draw that gentle strength through the core. And then we'll invite the knees to bend. The gaze will draw forward. We'll step, hop, or walk the feet between the hands. And lifting to our half forward fold, we gently release into our forward fold. And we'll rise into our chair, the weight into the heels, that strength into our quadriceps, gently extending through the legs, releasing the hands to our heart center. And we'll find our way back into that chair, as that weight is drawn into the heels, the strength through the quadriceps. We release to our forward fold, our stomach to thigh connection. Lifting to our half forward fold, working that length out of our foundation. Gently we'll release the hands to the earth, the feet to our plank, moving through our vinyasas. We release to that Chaturanga Dandasana. Lifting to our up dog or our cobra. And then gently we'll extend the hips back and up to our downward dog. we'll find our right foot begins to extend back and up towards the corner of the ceiling and the wall behind us. That right foot gently begins to draw up in between the hands. The left foot releases to our warrior feet. The hips remain square as we lift to our warrior one. And we'll find ourselves gently folding forward, framing our left foot. It steps back to meet the right, choosing to move through a vinyasa or straight to our down dog. And then we'll find ourselves gently extending that left foot back and up to our three-legged dog. We'll step that left foot up in between the hands, releasing our right foot to our warrior feet, the hips square, the hug of the low belly as we lift into our warrior one. As we hinge at the hips, folding forward, framing our left foot, it steps back to meet the right, choosing to move through a vinyasa or straight to your down dog. And noticing that every vinyasa is truly an option. And that's how we begin to grow within our practice. We find what's available to us. And as we find this down dog, allowing that breath to move calmly, smoothly and steadily through the body. Gently inviting the knees to bend, the gaze draws forward, we step, hop, or walk, the feet between the hands. Lifting to our half forward fold, gently releasing to our forward fold. And we'll find our rise up into our chair. And allowing ourselves a moment here, really building that strength through our foundation. And gently we'll release back into our forward fold. Our lift to our half forward fold. The hands release to the earth, the feet to our plank, moving through a vinyasa. Finding that chaturanga dandasana. The lift to our up dog or our cobra. And that extension back into our downward dog. And we'll find that right foot extends back and up to our three-legged dog. That right foot drawing up in between the hands, releasing the left to our warrior feet, as we find that inhale lifts to our warrior one. And as we find this warrior one, our next inhalation is going to encourage the hips to open. Those arms will extend wide as we make our way into our warrior two. Building that firm foundation as we ground through the outsole of that left leg. That lengthening through it, the hips nice and parallel to the earth, allowing that front right knee to be bent either directly above or just behind that right ankle. And we want to notice that stretch through the inner hip flexor of that back left leg as we hug the low belly in, allowing that tailbone to gently reach towards the earth. The floating ribs draw together, we work that lengthening through the spine. And then we want to relax the shoulders, let ourselves reach through those fingertips. And then we're going to roll that right palm to face the sky, extending through those right fingertips up towards the sky, keeping that foundation nice and firm. We want to notice that lift out of that pelvic floor as we invite this stretch through the obliques, the intercostals, and the serratus anterior of that right hand side. And then gently we can begin to allow that extension through those fingertips to fall over the head as we find our way into our reverse warrior. And then as we find this reverse warrior, maybe we want to take that left hand and we release it from our left leg, beginning to wrap it up and around the back, working its way into a half bind. And gently we'll begin to work the shoulders back up and over the hips, extending through our fingertips to our warrior two. We'll find ourselves tilting the pelvis onto its right hand side. The right elbow may wish to stay on the top of that right knee as we extend that left hand up and over the head. Maybe we take that right elbow to the inside of our right knee and let the arm float towards the earth. Maybe that hand can gently ground and we can hang out here in our extended side angle at whatever depth we found. Maybe we want to work that half bind. We'll take that top left hand, we'll extend it back up towards the sky, and then gently it'll release behind the back, finding its way into that half bind. Remembering that we want to continue to roll the shoulders back and down in any form of our extended side angle. And gently, we'll find that we extend that left hand back up towards the sky. An inhale swims those shoulders back up and over the hips for our warrior two. And we'll invite a gentle lengthening through our right leg, the tilt of the pelvis onto its right hand side as we begin to release into that triangle posture. Remembering that we want to extend through the right side body, feeling that strengthening through the left obliques, intercostals, and serratus anterior as we encourage that length to remain through our spine, allowing that movement to come from the hips of that joint, the joint area that we have of our body. We want to invite that stretch through the inner hip flexors and the hamstring of our right leg as we encourage that right leg to remain extended. And then, of course, we let the shoulders relax back and down. We'll begin to work that extension from fingertip to fingertip. We'll gently begin to draw the shoulders back up and over the hips as we find ourselves inviting our right knee to bend back into our warrior two. We'll hug the low belly in, inhaling to lengthen through the spine, and then gently we'll cartwheel the hands forward, framing our right foot. It steps back to meet the left as we choose to move through a vinyasa or straight to our downward dog. And we'll find an inhalation, gently extending our left foot back and up to our three-legged dog. We'll begin to draw that left foot up in between the hands, releasing our right foot to the earth. The hips square as we inhale, lifting to that warrior one. Finding that strength here into that foundation. Our next inhalation gently opens up the hips and the shoulders. We reach through those fingertips into our warrior two. Now as we find that warrior two, that left knee either directly above or just behind the left ankle, encouraging the pelvis to be nice and parallel with the earth, to invite that stretch through the inner hip flexor of our back right leg. We hug the low belly in, continuing to lengthen through the spine, drawing the floating ribs together, so we allow the shoulders to relax. We let ourselves just reach through those fingertips, trying to touch both that wall in front of you and that wall behind you simultaneously. Drawing that stretch as much as we can, even across the chest, across the shoulders, as we let that reach through the arms. And then gently we'll draw that left palm to face the sky, reaching through those left fingertips all the way up towards the sky, keeping that foundation nice and firm. We want to notice how we lift out of that pelvic floor, inviting that stretch through the left obliques, the left intercostals, and the left serratus anterior. And as we find that extension through the arm, we can gently begin to allow it to fall over the head gently, working the depth of this reverse warrior. Now maybe we want to take that right arm, we release it from our right leg, and it can begin to work its way up behind the back into this half bind. As we find that extension out of this foundation, that ability to relax the shoulders back and down, we'll then gently draw those shoulders back up and over the hips, reaching through the fingertips for our warrior two. We'll find that the pelvis begins to tilt onto its left-hand side. The left elbow to the left knee, working that length through the spine as that right hand reaches up and over the head, finding our extended side angle. Maybe the elbow wants to stay on the knee. Maybe it wants to move to the inside of the knee and we can release the arm. Maybe the hand touches the ground, maybe it can ground through the earth, but we want to keep that strength in that foundation. And maybe we find ourselves comfortable and yet challenged in this extended side ankle. Maybe we wish to draw that right hand up towards the sky into that half bind as it begins to release behind the back. Finding that right shoulder continues to roll back and down, we maintain the length through our spine and that length across our collarbones. Gently we'll extend that right hand back up to the sky if we worked that half bind. And then we'll find that we swim the hands up, the shoulders up and over the hips into that warrior two foundation. We'll gently lengthen through our left leg, finding that we begin to tilt the pelvis onto its left-hand side, finding that hinge through the hips as we work that length to remain in our spine. We want to let that extension through the left side of our body, that strengthening through the right oblique, intercostals, and serratus anterior. We find that we gently reach from fingertip to fingertip, as that left hand might be on the leg, at the shin, the ankle, the foot, maybe even the earth. The depth is not what matters. We want to find the ability to remain extended through our body, the ability to have that reach from fingertip to fingertip, to feel that length through our spine, that extension of our legs into the earth. And then we use that strength to hug that musculature to the skeletal system. And we'll find those shoulders gently begin to draw back up and over the hips. We'll invite that left knee to gently bend back to our warrior two as we find that extension through our fingertips. And gently in exhale, cartwheels the hands forward. We frame our left foot, it steps back to meet the right, choosing to move through a vinyasa or straight to your down dog. As we find this down dog, our next inhale gently extends our right foot back and up to our three-legged dog. But we're going to make our way into our pigeon pose, so our next exhale begins to draw that right knee all the way up to our right wrist and the earth. So we want it on the ground, that whole knee. And then we'll begin to draw the right ankle up towards our left wrist. As much as our body lets us, we'll start to rotate through that hip. And then we allow ourselves to release that back left knee to the earth. We'll roll over those left toes and we'll start to reach from the toes of our left foot through our right knee, starting to work that stretch into that piriformis muscle grouping of our right hip, that outer portion of our right hip, that glute area. And then as we start to work that gentle stretch, we work that lengthening through the spine. We can get to walk our hands forward as we release down into this forward fold over our pigeon foundation. Now maybe we stay on our palms. Perhaps we can work down to the forearms, keeping that length in our spine. Maybe we can hinge at the hips so much that we fold completely over this foundation. And we're going to find ourselves here in this pigeon for a few moments. But a few things we want to keep our mind aware of is the distance of our hips from the earth. We want to notice that our hips have an equal distance each. So each sit bone is relatively the same distance, each frontal hip point are relatively the same distance from the ground. What that does is that helps prevent us from rolling into one joint or the other, which keeps this stretch even through our practice. We also want to notice that we work that length through our low back. We continue to try and hug the low belly in to find that extension through the spine. And gently, we'll begin to walk those hands back in towards the body. The shoulders begin to return up and over the hips. We'll press into that foundation of our hands as we reach that right foot back to meet the left into our downward dog. Now we're going to stay on this left hand side as we extend that right foot side, as we extend our right foot back and up to our three-legged dog. And we're going to exhale. We're going to begin to open up the hips. We're going to reach that right hip point up towards the sky as we bend our right knee, drawing that right heel towards our right glute. So we'll start to notice this opens up. This is a nice gentle twist. We want to reach through that right knee towards the sky as we reach that right foot towards our spine. Now what's really cool is you can find that reach continues as we extend through that foot, and maybe we find ourselves comfortable enough to move into this back bend. Our wild thing as that foot begins to release down to the earth over the body. Maybe that right hand begins to lift off the earth and reach up towards the sky. Maybe it gently falls over the head as we open across the chest. And we'll find that right hand extends back up towards the sky, then releases down to the ground. We work that strength through that twist to begin to lift that right foot back and up nice and gently into our three-legged dog. And our exhale will gently release that right foot down to meet the left. And gently we'll extend our left foot back and up to our three-legged dog. As we work our way into our pigeon, our exhale draws the left knee up to the left ankle. The left knee up to the left wrist. The left ankle will draw up to the right wrist, towards the right wrist, as we gently release our right knee to the earth. Rolling over our right toes, we begin to work that extension from our left knee to our right toes. And again, we want to remember those hips nice and equidistant from the earth. We begin to hinge at the hips, working that length of our spine forward. We'll find ourselves either grounding upon the hands, maybe the forearms release to the earth. We continue to work that length through our spine. Maybe we can hinge at the hips so much that we find ourselves folding over this foundation. And again, remembering to keep those hips nice and equidistant from the earth, that hug of the low belly as we try to maintain the length of our spine. We'll begin to reach through the chest forward and up, walking those hands back in towards the body. Finding that firm foundation through the hands, the shoulders almost over those hips. We'll hug the low belly and start to reach the hips back and up towards our down dog as we draw that left foot back to meet the right. And we'll stay on that left foot side as we extend that left foot back up to our three-legged dog. And then we'll reach our left hip point up towards the sky as we open up across the hips. That left knee bends as that heel begins to reach towards our glutes. And we work this nice revolved three-legged dog. Finding that gentle twist that it invites. Maybe as we find that this is where we want to stay, reaching through that left knee towards the sky. Maybe we venture into that wild thing as we reach through that left foot towards the ground. Finding that strength of our rotation, that twist through the body, it helps us lift that left hand off the earth as we gently place that left foot to the ground. And then that left hand reaches up towards the sky. Maybe that's where we hang out. Maybe that hand wants to begin to release up and over the head, working that opening across the body. And then we'll extend our left hand back up towards the sky. It gently begins to fall back to the earth as we utilize that core strength to draw that left foot back up and into our downward dog. And gently we'll float that left foot down to meet the right. We'll invite the knees to bend. The gaze will draw forward as we step, hop, or walk the feet between the hands. Lifting to our half forward fold, we'll gently release into our forward fold. And as we find ourselves here, encouraging that strength through our foundation, that gentle lengthening through the legs, that stomach to thigh connection. And gently we invite ourselves to roll up one vertebrae at a time, stacking each vertebrae one atop the other. And as we make our way back to that standing Tadasana, we'll step the feet about mat distance apart, just about shoulder distance wide, or just a little bit wider. We'll turn the toes out to what's comfortable, to draw the hands to the heart center. We'll begin to release the sit bones down towards the heels, finding our way into our Malasana squat. So as we find this Malasana nice and comfortably grounded evenly between both feet, we're working that stretch through the inner hip flexors, the strength through the quadriceps, that strength through the core as we maintain a nice long spine, remembering to keep the shoulders relaxed back and down. And then what we'll do is we're going to start to invite a gentle twist as we begin to release that right hand down to the earth, and I like mine to be almost in line with my foot. And that left hand extends back and up towards the corner of the ceiling in the wall. And we'll find this twist as we roll the shoulders back and down the spine, working that reach through our fingertips. And then gently, we might find this twist to be what we want. Maybe that top left hand gently falls behind the back into our half bind, and we just work that availability of that left shoulder to roll back and down the spine a little bit further. And gently we'll reach through those fingertips, finding our way back into those extended arms. We'll exhale, releasing this twist back to our midline. And gently, that left hand will release down to the earth. We'll reach that right hand up towards the corner of the ceiling and the wall behind us. Maybe we just find those shoulders roll back and down here. We work that length through the spine, that evenness through our feet. Maybe that right hand begins to release behind the back, keeping that length through the collarbones as we work this half bind. And that keeps that strength through the core as we allow that length to remain through our collarbones. And gently we can find ourselves reaching through those fingertips, finding that length across the arms. And an exhale will gently release us back to our midline as we release that twist. We'll find the hands will gently ground as we release the sit bones to the earth, extending the legs out in front of us. Hugging the low belly in, we lengthen through the spine. We'll then hinge at the hips, reaching the chest towards our toes, finding our way into our Paschimottanasana. Now as we find that extension through the heels, encouraging the tops of the feet to draw in towards the body, that stretch through the calves and the hamstrings. The hinge at the hips encourages a lengthening through the glutes as we can gently stretch through the hips. The hug of the low belly lengthens through the spine as we continue to work that length all the way up the spine. Here in this Paschimottanasana. And gently we reach to the chest forward and up. We work the shoulders back up and over the hips. We'll gently bend our right knee, drawing that right foot to the outside of our left leg. Now we start to work our way into this half Lord of the Fish posture. We want to gently wrap the arms around the leg, hug the knee up in towards the chest, and work length through the spine. Notice how that invites that piriformis stretch again. And now as we keep that right hand hugged into that right leg, we can take our left elbow, we can begin to work it over the knee. Maybe we can get that upper arm in front of the knee. Maybe we can work that shoulder in front of the knee. So there's a whole lot of depths and options into this half Lord of the Fish posture. And as we find this, we'll take that right hand gently grounded upon the earth behind us as we roll that right shoulder back and down to invite the twist. So we built that foundation, we built that stretch into that piriformis, and we want to maintain that foundation and then just roll that right shoulder back and down the spine to begin to open through the body. We'll find ourselves gently releasing this twist back to our midline. We'll reach that right foot gently out to meet the left. As we bend our left knee, that left foot drawing to the outside of our right leg. And again, we want to start just by hugging the knee in towards the body, as we encourage that stretch to be found through our piriformis muscle grouping. And as we work that stretch through the outside of that left hip, we want to hold that left leg with the right arm as we draw the elbow either above the knee, perhaps to the outside of the knee. Maybe we can get the upper arm onto the knee or the shoulder. And we work that twist starting here. We hug the low belly in. We roll that left shoulder back and down the spine as we ground that left hand gently upon the earth. And we just hug that low belly and we work that length out of our foundation here. And then gently we'll find that we can release this twist back to our midline on an exhalation. We'll extend that left foot out to meet the right. We'll find the hug of our low belly, a gentle lengthening through the spine. We'll begin to walk our hands back about 6 to 8 inches. And we can find from here, we begin to lift the hips towards the sky, building up this reverse plank. Maybe we want to start to reach the toes towards the earth. Maybe this is super intense, and we can find ourselves relaxed back onto the earth, those hands firmly grounded still. We can bend the knees, drawing the feet flat upon the earth, and we can lift into our reverse tabletop, working through the same core strengtheners as we find that we can begin to build that strength into our body. And then gently we release the sit bones back to the earth. We'll find that we roll and walk the hands back up next to the hips. And we'll bend the knees, gently hugging them into the chest. We just roll onto our backs, finding our way to extending the arms out nice and wide. Gently we begin to release the knees over the right hand side, finding ourselves relaxing into the earth here in this gentle twist. And gently, as the gaze draws back to the sky, the knees back into the chest, we'll begin to release the knees over to the left-hand side. We continue to ground through the shoulders. The gaze draws over to those right fingertips as we let ourselves relax here in this spinal twist. And the gaze will draw back to the sky, the knees back into the chest. Wrapping the arms around the shins, giving ourselves a nice hug of appreciation for everything that we are capable of. And gently as we relax back into the earth, the arms melting alongside the body, will extend the legs out in front of us as we find our way to our Shavasana posture. That final relaxation. And just letting ourselves melt into our foundation. As we take a moment to reflect upon our practice, the strengthening and the stretching, the challenges and difficulties, the moments of ease and simplicity. And gently, the mind begins to draw back to that natural flowing breath. just simply allowing it to be as it is. The comfort and the simplicity that exists with it. And gently, as we begin to draw the awareness of our mind back to our bodies, inviting movement, we can begin to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Perhaps we roll the wrists and the ankles in circles. Maybe we even stretch as if we had woken from a nap. And gently the knees will begin to work their way into the chest. We'll roll over onto our right hand side, allowing ourselves a few moments here. We'll gently begin to make our way to a comfortable seated position. Anything from our simple cross-legged, our adept's posture, our half lotus, our bound angle, hero's pose, anything simple and seated. And I want to express my gratitude for your continued perseverance, for that indomitable will to succeed. So thank you and namaste.